Hey all, welcome back to Xeno Commentates Mega Man Revolution. Last time I took a look at Haste and Ghost Man. Ghost Man being the better starting stage, and Haste Man just purely because I've played this enough times to know that his weapon is gonna kick some ass later on. So I'm gonna continue in the weakness order from here, and that's coincidentally gonna show us the two worst bosses in this game, which you'll be seeing shortly. So from Ghost Man, following the weakness order, you're going to be going to Sawman. And, the stage here is one of the better ones. But the boss, oh lord, do I have a lot to talk about. Sawman himself. Dreadful. It's really, truly dreadful. Anyways, before I get to that point, starting with Ghost Man stage is convenient here because you get immediate access to this light. Rush Coil, of course, works just fine. Never had an issue with it, really. Now, these saws kill you instantly, as you would probably expect. So yeah, just avoid them. I honestly like this opening segment. Sets the tone of the level well. This pit drop is a bit dickish. Now the next segment has these Metal Man enemies. Clone enemies, I guess. And then these used to be Hammer Joes, and then they were replaced with this little shield bot. It's cool. Reminds me of a Joe, but pretty easy to deal with. You have the ground-crawling enemies. But really, the big problem here is the Metal Man enemies. The positions for them sometimes are just god-awful. Trying to switch back to the Buster here. Like this one. This is one of the worst positions in the whole level, because it just constantly respawns. The moment you move back to try and dodge, it respawns. My recommendation is just do this. And then fail it. Yeah, just use Wild Sprint. Makes your job a lot easier if you have it. Otherwise, just might want to tank a hit, but for no damage run, this is a kind of essential tab. Your letter grab is going to be on the right here. Excuse me. That letter grab makes more sense than some of the other ones because at least it's on an alternate path that looks harder instead of just being on an edge. Of course, the bad letter position Ghost Man stage might just have been a relic of the kind of weird development of this game. Maybe like something that was supposed to be very temporary that just ended up making it to this demo version. I honestly don't have much to talk about for this particular segment. It's just more enemies, Joes, and Metal Man. This screen is kind of empty, just items. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention. The music here is quite good. I like it. Now, there are fake Mets in this stage that imitate health, but I don't understand why this stage was chosen to have them, because there's nothing particularly related to saws with fake enemies, so I never understood. Not that it's particularly inappropriate, I just don't understand why they're here. Anyways, moving right on. We got the Super Cutter Machine from Mega Man 1 with a cool new variation that throws iron saws instead. I like that. That's a creative way to reuse an existing asset. Empty screen with energy. These empty screens are a little bit weird. I gotta say, that's always been something I noticed about this game. It just has a lot of really random empty screens. Anyways, this segment that reminds you of Dustman stage or any of the other classic Mega Man stages that have these rising and lowering ceilings. The saws are instant death, pretty much as you'd expect. You know, I think this is pretty well telegraphed by this point, so not an issue. Yeah, another kind of stupid... Oh. I didn't actually think I would die from that because I was invincible. I guess this bypasses the effects of Wild Sprint. Well, that's disappointing. Regardless, this segment is okay. I feel like the hitboxes on the saws could be a little bit clearer, because it seems to extend all the way down to the bottom of the saw, even in the empty spaces in the middle. But not awful or anything. You know, this is just fine. Maybe I'll see if I can make any use of acid bubble here. Okay, there we go. This thing travels a bit too slowly for my liking, but it has its uses. Against certain enemies, it's a godsend. Hitting it properly on the Metal Man enemies, as you can see, they're called Blade Runners. Works like a charm. This boss door, that was a little bit glitchy. I always found that a bit bizarre. And then this mini boss is like an electricity shooter, which I'm not sure what this has to do with saws. But I'd recommend just killing it with Wild Sprint. Of course, if you run out of it like I do, you switch to something else. So not a bad mini boss, just kind of boring since it just goes up and down and it has nothing. It's not related to saws at all. So again, not really sure why that is in the stage. One thing I noticed in a few stages, most notably this one and Cryo Man, is that the music tempo changes after you defeat a mini-boss, which is a really interesting little change that it seems like not many people notice, or at least I haven't seen it commented on in a lot of other playthroughs or kind of evaluations of this game. But yeah, that's a cool detail. I quite like that. That Metal Man enemy, the Blade Runner position there is just fine. This one, tricky spot, but also not as stupid as one of the first ones. That's a fake Met. Probably gonna get hit by it. You probably forgot by now that those are in this stage. What do I want? Wild Sprint. If I were doing no damage, I'd definitely need full Wild Sprint to beat Sawman, but I'm gonna be taking some hits because you're in for a treat. The audience, especially if you haven't played this game, boy, this is gonna be a complete disaster. Just kind of empty screens before the boss. I'm not sure why so many stages in this game just have empty screens like this before the boss, or a screen with just one enemy on it. So here's Sawman. What's the problem with him? Well, it's a couple of things. He's extremely erratic. He'll do that attack randomly, jumping to the middle of the room and throwing saws and whatnot, but he's really erratic. He just does whatever he feels like, basically. To dodge the, yeah, see, he just jumped and threw a saw immediately. Pretty much almost undodgeable, and he'll just move like that. Move to the center of the screen in like 0.5 frames. It's ridiculous. For a no damage run, this is an absolute nightmare because, again, just does like that. Throw a saw as he's coming down, and then immediately throw another one. You'll just get screwed over. Obviously, I'm kind of used to it by now, so I'm able to at least kill him efficiently. But it sucks. What it needed was either tells for the attacks, better tells, and not being able to randomly just shove himself into the middle of the room for that, quintuple saw attack. The randomness is the problem, again, as with some other bosses. That's also going to be the case for Sandman, as you're about to see, but Sawman is worse, in my opinion, purely because it's more difficult to cheese him with Wild Sprint, which is what you want to do for a no damage run. You just have to constantly skirt him. It's a nightmare. So, I've seen from the Mega Man Revolution Remix vlogs that they significantly rewrote his AI, which is a good thing at least. So that, I'll hand it to them for realizing that, that wasn't so good. I think I neglected to mention that we collected Rush Marine, which barely sees any use in this game, aside from, I think maybe 1 or 2 screens in the whole game. But I'll get to that later. For now, Sandman. This sprite is probably one of the worst in the game. The tube going from his mouth to his body just is way too big. And I've heard this from multiple other people, but it just straight up looks like he's sucking his own dick. Which I don't think was the intention. So, funny sprite aside, you got a Mega Man Maker tier secret here. By going left, you'll find a letter, which kind of clever, I guess, but also just not very original. One thing I noticed that's weird about the Mets in this game that I don't like, I'm glad I get to talk about this now, but if you continuously shoot, they never open. And I don't know why this is, because this isn't how they work in the classic series. They're supposed to open up, and the whole point is to shoot them at the right time, but if you keep shooting, they never open. So, yeah, not something I like. You get used to it, but it's not something I'm a fan of. Anyways, If you want to have an easy time with this segment, to avoid these big-ass antlion traps... Actually, did I even show them off? I think I killed all of them instantly. These are like the one-ants from Hardman stage, just like giant and harder to avoid. But they die instantly to Wild Sprint, so if you have it, make use of it. This background graphic, I'm just going to pause. God, it's awful. It hurts my eyes. And it doesn't look that good either. You have to know this W tank is here, by the way. This is a stupid position. Putting items in places where you can't get them unless you know about them is never a good idea, so I'm gonna chastise you there, and then bolt. Just like empty screens, again, falling down a massive shaft with empty screens. Bit weird, but this graphic is way too bright. That's the main problem with it, it's way too bright. Tone it down a few shades and it'd be probably just fine, like if it were brown, but as it is, it's way too bright. If you have shotgun here, you're going to want to use it to take out those green enemies because, again, they're so erratic. And here's another good example of an erratic enemy. The Mega Man powered up Cactus Spy, which just shoots needles. If you slide, it aggravates it, and that's what causes it to shoot. As you can see, I'm sliding, and it wants to shoot me. These suck. The AI is like, not fair, pretty much. Just get away from them as soon as possible. The farther you are from the needles, the better chance you have of surviving, but thankfully those enemies don't show up, I think, anywhere except here, which is good because it's stupidly designed. The Cactus Spy from Mega Man Powered Up was a lot better because at least it wasn't so erratic and fast, and also taking advantage of your sliding, which is stupid. Now, that tornado, if you get caught in it, it drags you around, but I would highly recommend avoiding them at all costs, both here and in the mini-boss that's about to use them. Because if you get caught by them, sometimes they'll glitch out your controls. I think this especially happens when you defeat the mini-boss when stuck in a tornado, but you become unable to slide, sometimes you become unable to charge, and as you would imagine, that's pretty crippling, so just try and avoid that at all costs. Just jump over these. You do not want to get glitched out here because it's going to cause a lot of problems. So here's the mini-boss. This mini-boss sucks for the primary reason that the head goes back and forth and it deflects your shots, and the weak spot is the tail, which is not at all obvious if you ask me. I would think to shoot the head first, that doesn't work, and then you shoot the tail and you realize, oh, I'm supposed to shoot the tail. But this just takes ages. If you try and do it properly, just shooting the tail with the buster, it takes way too long. So my personal patented Xeno tip is use Iron Saw, because that pierces it for some reason. And just like that, you'll be past it. So yeah, really a lot of questionable design in this stage, and it's not even going to end there. The boss is probably second worst in the game, behind Sawman, as I was saying. Mostly due to abuse of randomness. Again, it's a huge overarching problem with this game. Here you got Yoku blocks, which is, I think, one of the only times they appear in the entire game. And this stage has Rush Jet in it, which is the Mega Man 3 version of Rush Jet, so you have no reason to ever play this. Which is convenient because I don't want to. To say something positive for a second, I really like this background here. It's very pretty. And this section is probably one of the best in the stage because it's at least fair for the most part. It has these bee enemies that come drop bombs on you. That was my fault. I wasn't paying attention. You want to slide away from them. So I actually kind of like this. It's hectic and kind of fun. So I'll hand it to them there. I was trying to jump there. Oh yeah, probably the audience caught on to this by the fact that it pierced the mini-boss earlier, but Iron Saw's main property is that it pierces. Otherwise, it functions kind of just like Metal Blade with gravity. You can fire it in all 8 directions, and it's a pretty good weapon. Consumes more ammo than Metal Blade, which is fine. I think it's fair. It's pretty balanced. It's a good thing to have, though. So here's Sandman. What's the problem with him, you might ask? Well, it's that he's random. You can see he's just jumping towards me. Have I bugged him out? Why is he not using his shield? And he just shoots whenever he feels like, with no telegraphs. This is actually kind of odd. I've never observed him just going back and forth like this. Usually he'll put up his shield by now. Huh. Have I never realized that his sand shield is activated by him shooting? That's actually really interesting. I didn't know that. So I guess if you don't shoot him, he never puts up his shield. Fascinating. Anyways, he has this sandstorm attack which spawns 3 bullets randomly like this, which, you know, the randomness is annoying, but the attack doesn't do much damage, so it's not super problematic except for no damage. The main reason he sucks is honestly just that he kind of moves however he feels like. He jumps randomly, he shoots randomly with no telegraph for either of these actions, and it's just not really fair. Which is unfortunate, because, you know, it's kind of clever, the shield and the sandstorm attack. They also redid his AI for regular remakes, so again, big ups for realizing their mistakes and then fixing them. Sand Shield is the second best weapon in this game. It's a godly shield. It blocks pretty much everything, just deletes almost every projectile in this entire game. And you'll also want it for certain parts of the game. It's great. Alright, the 4 Robot Master cutscene. Thank goodness you're still safe. 4 of them, blah. You can press the shoot button to skip through the dialogue, which I like because, who's gonna read it, this, and blah. Alright, that's 2 more down, and I think this is where I'll end here. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next Mega Man Revolution video. This is Xeno signing off. Hope you enjoyed.